Your Excellency, Mr. Musa Faki Mohammed, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency, Mr. Antonio Guterres, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. The chance to address this body is a rare and special thing, and I'm deeply grateful for it. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, I also want to thank you and the Ethiopian people again for welcoming me back to your wonderful country and for the example you set with pro-poor policies that are making great progress in health and agriculture. 25 years ago, I received a phone call from Nelson Mandela asking me to help fund South Africa's first free elections. At that time, I was completely focused on my work at Microsoft, thinking about the magic of software, and I honestly knew very little about South Africa or Africa at all. But I had admired Nelson Mandela very much since I was young, and I sensed that the wheels of history were turning on this continent. So I made a donation, and I pledged that soon I would go and learn more. In the years since, particularly since switching my full-time work to the Gates Foundation, I visited Africa every year. At first, I came just as a traveler, but then many of you welcomed me to your countries and sometimes into your homes to learn about the challenges facing your societies and how you were thinking about solving them. These have been remarkable experiences, yet this is the first time that I felt that history is turning in a similar sort of way. Because between today and the end of the century, almost as many children will be born in Africa than in the rest of the world put together. And the African Union has envisioned a remade continent for them to call home. In these plans, Africa, by 2063, will have many great things: high-speed trains, space program, online universities, roads, all the infrastructure. And it's a fantastic, hopeful vision, and I believe it is achievable. But how? What are the key elements? Obviously, there are physical things like infrastructure, telecom networks. But I think the key element will be the human talent, the people who will engineer the space shuttles, the people who will teach the classes and plan those modern transportation networks. If you look at the year 2063, I'll be 108 years old. Chairman Kagame, you'll be a bit younger, 106. So I don't think our generation will be the ones performing those jobs. Instead, I think Mandela had the answer. History will judge us, he said, by the difference we make in the everyday lives of children. Yesterday, the African leaders came together to talk about investing in people, and particularly the health of the next generation. These investments are critical. It's by having healthy children that they can go on and get a great education and make these contributions. 19 years ago, my wife and I started our foundation with the money that we'd been lucky enough to earn through Microsoft. Our goal was to give every person in the world a chance to live a healthy and productive life. We didn't know at that time exactly how we'd go about it. We learned about vaccines and that new ones were required. We learned that there were some that weren't getting out, particularly to the poorer children, including in Africa. We decided to put money into contraceptives for young women, into seeds for higher yield crops, and into polio drops for children so that we could wipe out the disease of polio from the face of the earth. Along the ways, we learned a great deal: how to pool foreign aid from many countries, both to coordinate programs and to lower drug prices. We learned how to track diseases using advanced digital tools. And I believe the whole endeavor of health and health aid have become far more rigorous, far more measured, far more business-like and impactful. In the early 2000s, for example, the world didn't have a good estimate for how many people were dying of malaria. Today, we not only know how many malaria cases there have been, we have strong forecasts of how many they will be and where they will be in the future. And that gives us a guide of where to intervene to reduce those deaths. So this data guides us, and it shows us that the investments in people, the investments in health are working. Over these last 20 years, we put over $15 billion into fighting poverty and disease on the continent. And although that seems like a large number, a much larger number is the economic benefit. When it comes to buying and delivering basic medicines, every dollar invested here has generated 20 more in social and economic benefits. And that's a return that's right up there with all the other possible investments. And in fact, I would say it's a necessary investment. It turns out that a shot of vaccine in a child's arm is also a shot of adrenaline into the heart of an economy over time. Of course, it's not just health, although that's where we specialize. We also work in agriculture. Education and quality work there is super important. We need programs that help farmers sell their produce to a wider market, technologies that help people transact in a very efficient digital way. All of this empowers people to pick themselves up. All of this is what economists call human capital. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I believe that the African Union can achieve its highest ambitions to remake the continent for the next generation. But a key will be making smart investments in human capital. Our foundation has spent 2 decades on the continent partnering with governments to do that. We've had great success in lots of places, including Rwanda, Ethiopia. We're working in Nigeria to improve the primary health care in the north. We're working with South Africa to bring down the burden of HIV and TB and to invent new tools using the great scientists there. We stand ready to continue to help, to use our resources, our time, and our expertise for this cause. 25 years ago, when I picked up that phone, I couldn't have imagined that the main topic I would work on is health in Africa. But because of his call and his example, that's what I find myself doing today. And so, although a lot of time has passed, whenever there's a call like that, particularly if it's about how we can help in health, I want to respond and do everything I can to help you achieve your vision. Thank you.